Good morning. My name is Joe Kuiper, and I'm here to welcome you to Mix and Mingle New Residents Program. This is the third in the episodes, and I think we're going to meet some very interesting people today. As you know, COVID put us on hold with our usual Mix and Mingle celebrations here, but today we're happy to introduce to you some people who have come in during those times that were trial for all of us. So before I will go any further, I would say that our friend here, Glenn McCoskey, will be interviewing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. And after you've met them, I want you to be sure that you meet them again in the hallway. In the meantime, you've probably heard a knock on your door, and there was something sent to you, like a wonderful little treat. Why don't you get that out right now? Fix the beverage of your choice and enjoy that while you're listening to these interviews. Lynn, it's all yours.
Thank you, Joe. Good morning, everybody. I chair the Mix and Mingle Committee, which is an in-house committee that activities supports. And we are charged with having to introduce and make the new people welcome to the building. So that's the purpose. Like Joe said, we haven't been able to do that. We're going to make up for it, hopefully, and catch up. And so some of these residents get to know others in the building because you'll approach them after you see them on TV. On my left, our first person that we're going to interview is Marcia Huizinga. Now, we like to know where Marcia came from, etc., and I'm going to turn it over to her. Marcia.
Well, I was born and raised right here in Holland, so I was gone for many years, and now I'm back. I went to Holland Christian High School and went to Calvin College for a year and a half for the teaching program, which they changed at the half. My fiancé then was Vincent Vanderwerp, whose father was a minister at Pillar Church, which we used to call 9th Street Church. So he was probably going to leave, so we got married and lived 1 year in Holland, and then we moved to Grand Rapids, and he went to Calvin Seminary. From there, we moved to Saginaw, Michigan, and we were there for 3 years, and then we moved to Zeeland.
Mm-hmm.
And he passed away very young. At that time, I had 3 young children, and when my youngest one started kindergarten, I decided I better finish college, so I went to Hope College. Right now, I don't care who wins, the Hope or the Calvin game. Either one is fine. So it took me another 4 years to finish, and then I taught in the Hudsonville school system, taught music for the first half of my career until the millage didn't pass, and then I went into 4th grade until I retired.
It's interesting, Marcia. You said you went to Calvin, but you lived in Holland. What was that? Did one of your parents go to Calvin? How come you didn't go to Hope right then when you were here?
Because we
living
were Christian Reformed, and Calvin was our college, and my fiancé or boyfriend was going over there. So,
Okay.
And I stayed there. I went with a couple high school classmates, and we stayed together.
Okay.
So.
The other thing I found interesting is you said you took a 2-year teaching degree, but because of millage or something happened.
The state had a 2-year teaching degree, and then you took all your teaching classes because there was such a shortage of teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And then the idea was, then as you were teaching, you filled in and took your other classes. The state changed that at a year and a half. It wasn't accepted anymore.
Ah.
That's what
So
happened.
you ended up with a 2-year degree and you couldn't teach then until you completed
Right, a year and a
one.
half, right, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
What about family? Any children or?
I had 3 children, a girl and 2 boys.
Okay. They live in the area or?
One lives in Zeeland, the other 2 live in Hudsonville.
Oh, that's nice and close.
Yeah,
Nice and
nice
close.
and close.
What about hobbies?
Well, after I retired, I took up quilting, and that really became a big part of my life. And music was my career, but when that all got canceled, it still stayed on as my hobby. And I like to golf, but we won't talk about that.
You like it, but it's not fond of you.
It
huh?
keeps you humble.
Okay. Well, I think we've learned quite a bit about Marcia. Please welcome her to Freedom Village. Enjoyed meeting you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're back again. On my left is Karen DeMol. Where do you live in the building, Karen?
I'm on the 4th floor on the west side.
On the west side. Takes a while for all of us to get used to what's east and west around here, but
Yes, it
good
does.
for you. If we get back to our dining previous, if you invite somebody for supper, you always need to indicate what side of the building you're gonna meet them on, because east is over there and they sign in, and west is over there and that's where they sign in. So, good job. Where are you from, Karen?
I was born in New Jersey. And when I was 9, my family moved to Grand Rapids, where I grew up. Went to high school and college there, Calvin College. Lived in Saginaw, Michigan for 2 years, where we were a member of the church that Marcia's husband was a pastor of.
Ah,
And I've enjoyed at Freedom Village here finding connections with other residents.
you know, it's amazing what a nice hub Freedom Village is, and where we meet in that center and find out we
Yes.
already have friends here.
Yes. Then on to Chicago for 20 years. And then to Iowa, where I lived in Sioux Center and taught at Dordt College for almost 35 years. Now this is a westward trend, so I thought I might end up in California or maybe Hawaii. But at that point, it was time to move closer to family, and so I came here.
We've all
If-
all experienced that. I remember one day when we were in the bistro, you know Joe Kuiper.
I do. She was my next door neighbor in our Chicago days.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know you lived that close. What about hobbies, Karen? What do you like to do for fun?
Well, I'm a musician, so anything connected with music is fun. I'm glad around here there's so many concerts to go to here, or the Holland Symphony, or all summer the organ concerts at Pillar Church, the band concerts in the park. Since I taught music all those years, I am just eager to do whatever I can in music.
When you say you taught, what is it? You taught an instrument, or you taught voice, or?
Well, my instrument is clarinet, which is why you will not find me giving piano concerts in the atrium, though I like to hear those by various people. But I mainly taught music theory, and music theory sounds so obscure. It's what to music what grammar is to English. It's how music works, how you put scales and chords together to make pieces of music. And I just found that fascinating when I was at Calvin. I loved it, and I did not know what I would want to do with it, but I was encouraged to follow my heart, and so I did. And there were opportunities in Chicago and then later in Iowa to teach that. I also taught music literature, and I taught music in worship and was very active in worship planning in my church. And so those are things that make my blood roar today.
You love it still,
Yeah.
don't you?
And since you asked about interests and hobbies, I like to read. I like history. I like historical fiction. I like some mystery stories like Dorothy Sayers and Agatha Christie. And I'm here learning to pick up some games that I put aside long ago, like Scrabble and Rummikub.
And I know we have Scramble, or Scrabble,
Yes, we do.
in the building. Yeah, that's regular. What about card games? Anything there?
I have not started those yet.
Well,
I
you
can.
sound like you have a very, very busy life.
Yes.
Why did you pick Freedom?
It was for a number of reasons. It is sort of central to my family. I have a son in Muskegon, a daughter in Chicago, which is not real close, a sister with a huge number of children and grands in Byron Center.
That is close.
So there's lots of opportunity for family.
Well, it sounds
And
like
I
you've
was
gotten involved already fairly well in Freedom Village.
Well, I've tried.
Yeah, that's unbelievable to me because there hasn't been a lot of activity going on the last year and a half. And we were worried that new
Uh.
residents wouldn't be able to get.
Well, I keep hearing how it used to be
I know, yeah.
and what we might get back to. And in the meantime, we just make the best of what we've got.
Well, it's gratifying to me, and I know to management and to the other residents, that the new residents are reaching out and trying to get involved because it's been a lot more difficult in the last year and a half.
But the older residents are very wonderful at reaching out as well. They are just so friendly and welcoming.
Yeah, that was true when Terry and I moved in too, and we'll be here. We're in our 9th year.
Oh,
So we've enjoyed all of that Freedom has to offer. And we're among the people that are hoping that it will get back to that so you all can enjoy it too. We welcome you to Freedom Village. We're glad to
Thank
have
you.
you and all of your knowledge. Please share it.
okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, we're back with Mix and Mingle new residents interviews. And on my left is Carol and Jim Winslow. And the same questions apply to you both, but Carol, would you like to start?
Sure.
All right.
I was born and raised pretty much all my life in Holland. For a few years, my dad took a job in Tennessee, so I actually graduated from high school down in Lewisburg, Tennessee. Loved it down there, and but then I was sad because we moved back. But then I met my husband, my first husband, at our church, and we were married for 37 years when he died. And so 5 years later, Jim came into my life, and that's about it.
That's it? What
That's
about
it.
family? Did you have family with?
2 daughters. My daughter died 2 years after my husband died,
I'm
so
sorry.
it's just my one daughter and me, and she and her husband live in Hamilton. She has no children.
Well, they're close anyway,
Yes,
so, and is
yes.
that why you came back to Freedom?
I came to Freedom because my stepmother lived here for 16 years, Evelyn Wyenberg, and it was so perfect for her that I said, that's where I want to spend my last years.
You bet, you bet.
Enjoy life.
Yeah. What about hobbies? What do you do for fun and interest?
Well, I love music. I've never been very good at it, but I had enough training that I really, really appreciate it. And so coming here was so refreshing with all the opportunities for concerts. Take the bus over to the Holland Symphony
Yeah,
Orchestra, and so that's been a real
Yeah.
plus. I love to read. Had a little time to do that now, thanks to COVID.
Right.
Love to travel.
Mhm.
We've done quite a bit of traveling, and I worked as teaching English on a missions trip in Thailand for 5 different times, and loved that. Still have a lot of Thai friends.
Do ya?
Because these were all kids that were like middle school, high school,
Mhm.
college, and so thanks to Facebook, I can keep up with them.
Yeah, it's amazing the opportunities we have that were not available when we were youngsters.
Oh, yes.
With Facebook and, you know, the digitals, everything that's available.
It's a
Even to
small
see
world.
grandbabies and the pictures, you know.
Mhm.
It's a lot nicer than it used to be. Have you met any of our missionaries in the building? There are quite a few that have gone on mission. Gordon Lehman was in
No.
Japan for a long time.
Oh, I guess we did meet him at
You
a,
met Gordon.
Gordon and Natalie. There are quite a few other missionaries in the building, so that's a thought for a theme. That would be a
There you
good
go.
one. Anything else that you like to do for fun?
well, let's see. Love animals. We have a cat named Holly who's living here with us.
Is she?
And I volunteered at Holland Hospital for 16 years
Okay.
in same-day surgery, and I've been Bible Study Fellowship. I love Bible study. For 16 years, I was in. That was all after I retired from my job as a, I guess you would call it an administrative assistant at Emmanuel Church for
Okay.
21 years, and so.
You've
I-
had quite a busy life.
But I was a stay-at-home mom, too. So.
And how did you work there for 21 years then, after your daughter was up and
Yes,
out?
After,
Yeah, it's
when the
wonderful.
youngest one was junior in high school. That's when the job opened up, and I took it and loved it. I love anything to do with office work.
Do you?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that line too, myself. I love music, tried to play the piano at one time, lacked the theory
Yeah.
that Karen was teaching. I just thought my mother played by ear, so I just thought I would be able to do that. And she chorded and played the melody with her other hand. And I was so disappointed and amazed that I didn't have that talent. But I
Uh.
didn't, so I had to give it up. Anything else?
I don't think so.
All right, let me check. It says here that you married the gentleman next to you, Jim, in '03.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jim, can we hear a little bit about you?
Well, I was born in Grand Rapids. Early on, we moved to the country. I got my education elementary-wise in a one-room country school. They had no high school, so they sent us into Grand Rapids for high school.
How'd they
So
get
I-
you in there? Did they bus you
You had to
in?
get yourself.
You
There
had
was
to
no
get
busing.
yourself,
No
okay.
busing. So we got in and out ourselves and graduated from Ottawa Hills High School in Grand Rapids. Attended junior college, graduated from there, then finished down at Michigan State University.
Go Green.
Go Green, amen. I was hired by General Motors in a salaried position and did several things for them through 31 years, including I was salary paymaster, information technology, but my bulk of my 31 years was in engineering, which was what my degree was. So, finished up with them, retired at 56 years old, which was too early.
That's young.
That's young, and so finally wound up looking around and just picked a job out of the newspaper, not blindfolded with my daughter present, to find something to do. And it was security work for Frederick Meyer Gardens.
Ah,
So I put 16 years in with Frederick Meyer Gardens and other assignments than that. And then my hobbies, you mentioned hobbies. One of the big things for me right now, I'm writing an article. I've done 15 to 20 articles on railroad history in West Michigan.
ah.
And the one I'm working on now is the Pennsylvania Railroad at the 1904 World's Fair at St. Louis. So that'll be out next year.
Now,
sometime.
where do the articles show up? Do you do it for a specific
They're for
publication?
history groups. That one is for the Pennsylvania Railroad Technical and Historical Society, which is a group of about 3,000, I think,
Mm-hmm.
now across the country. And I've done them for the Grand Rapids Public Library, Harbor Springs Historical Museum, Muskegon Railroad Historical Society, and so forth.
Now, how do they find out about your expertise? Do you have to reach out, or because you've written articles, they come to you?
They come to me now. I get questions every day, pretty near. Pretty near. Not quite every day, but pretty close.
You've reinvented yourself 3 times.
Well, true. I've done more than that.
Engineer, security, and writer.
In 2016, what ended my career with the security work in 2016, I died. I was dead for 5 minutes and 15 seconds. It was not a heart attack. It was a cardiac arrest, which is when the heart just says enough and stops. And God worked, and they were ready to put me in the bag, but the last moment, one of the guards from the college that I was working at, Calvin College, I was on their campus for a basketball game, said one more time, and I started.
They mean they put the paddles on
Oh,
you?
I had paddles on me, yeah. And they started with resuscitation at first by themselves, and then paddles, and they said, no. And he said, well, let's do it one more time. God put that in his mouth, I know.
Oh my gosh.
And I started. And later was told that out of 100 people that had the cardiac arrest type thing that I had, 5 live. And I thought that was pretty good, but then later I was at the doctor's and he shook his head and said, no, that's not true. He said it's 1 out of 100 because the other 4 have some kind of impediment.
Oh my
I got up
gosh.
out of a hospital bed a week after that happened, walked out to the car and went home.
Yes, you did recreate yourself another time.
I
didn't
did.
you? We're
I
up to
like
4
living
now,
here.
Jim.
I like living here. And,
Do ya?
We are in 519.
Fifth floor?
Stop by and bang the door. We're
All right,
we're home
all
all
right.
the time. So.
We are going to look forward to meeting the two of you.
Thank
And
you.
I appreciate meeting you. Very interesting. We're glad to see you here at Freedom Village.
We're happy to be here.
All
We
right,
are.
good.
Thank you.
And we're back. This is Jenny Kelly on my left, and we're going to ask her where she came from and what she did in her life.
I think that anyone who listens to me for a while would realize that I'm from New York City. I was born in New York City, in Queens, and I went to PS 35 Queens Elementary School, then I went to Jamaica High School, then I went to Queens College, which is part of the City University of New York, and then I ended up teaching in the school I had attended as a child. And I guess one of the biggest most interesting things was that I was teaching with some of the people that I had had as teachers, and they wanted me to call them by their first names, and that was really a big transition for me. I married my elementary school sweetheart, and we were married in 1959, and we were married for 37 years. We had moved to the other side of the state, to Romeo, Michigan, and then 5 years later, we moved to Holland because he worked for BATS in Zeeland. And he was setting up BATS in the Orient because he had a lot of experience over there, and it was cheaper for them to do a lot of their hangars overseas. So Joe died in 1997 of leukemia. And 3 years later, I married Fred Kelly. And he died a year ago in June of pulmonary fibrosis. But we had 20 wonderful years together of traveling. And it was a lot of fun. I taught at East Grand Rapids High School I taught in Romeo when I moved there. And while I was teaching there, I went to Oakland University and got a master's in special education. And then I moved over here and I interviewed at East Grand Rapids High School, and my certificate covered K through 12 at the time. And I taught at the high school in special education, which I really loved. I retired in 2000, and Fred and I lived on Lake Mac, and we were going to come here because we both knew that he wasn't doing well, and he wanted to spend one more summer, on the lake. And it just didn't happen. I mean, in June, he passed away. So I decided, our plan was to come here, and so here I am.
Sounds like you've had 2 wonderful marriages.
I have. I have to say, I had 2 great marriages.
Yeah, and that's why she has a double last name, if anybody has seen it. It threw us for a little while because Barb was looking for Kelly or Dooley I can't find her apartment number. So we were looking under your first husband's name. So what else do you do you've had a busy life. What about family?
I just returned from New York. I decided I was going to drive again. I had driven over the years, but not at this age. And I said, I wanted to take my daughter with me. She's living at Lakeside Vista. She is handicapped. And so I said, I'm going to try it, even though I was very nervous about it. And I managed to accomplish that over the George Washington Bridge and the Throgs Neck and onto Long Island. All my family is on Long Island at this point. They were all from the city. I have 2 daughters here, 3 grandchildren here, and that's the only family I have here. The rest of my extended family is all in New York.
What floor are you on, Jenny?
6.
6th floor?
Mm-hmm.
Have you met Priscilla Arnold?
No, I have not.
She is from Long Island.
No kidding.
She moved here from Long Island,
Oh,
yes.
for heaven's sake.
She's on my floor, 5th floor.
I'm going to look her up.
Look her up, yeah, because she is, yeah, she came
Yeah.
from Long Island.
Okay.
Okay, what about hobbies, interests? What do you do for fun?
Well, I did I was a trolley guide for several years.
Oh, okay.
And I would get on there and say, I'm from New Amsterdam. And they would kind of look at me and I'd say, well, formerly, you know, it was New York City at one time. I mean, it is New York City now. And so then I would explain why my accent, but I love doing that. I did it for several years after well, even when I wasn't retired, I was doing it. I belong to the Methodist Church and I'm involved in things there. I like books and I love traveling. And right now, today, after this, I'm going over to the house because I still have it, and taking care of my house plants and bringing them gradually over here. I love plants. It's been a hobby of mine for a long time.
Have they contacted you for the bazaar to raise plants and put
Well,
them
yes, I
into the
know I have
bazaar?
some plants to bring over for that.
Do you?
Yeah. Mhm.
So somebody has contacted you
Right.
on that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think that's all I have to ask. I thought it was curious that you and Joe went to the same elementary school
We did.
and then
Then we
separated
went to
after the
separate
8th
high
grade.
schools. He went to Brooklyn Tech. I went to my local high school. And then we went to Queens College together. And then after we graduated, we got married.
Oh, sounds wonderful.
So, yeah, it was.
A lot of vast experience there, Jenny.
Right.
Welcome to Freedom Village.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Lynn, you did a great job once
Thank you,
again.
Joe.
We appreciate your work in all of this. This is the 3rd episode, isn't it?
It is.
And we're just so happy that you're able to do it and you do it so well. You have interviewed so many people today, and what wonderful stories we have heard that I'm sure that all of you have been watching in your residences will want to meet these people again. And who knows, your paths may have crossed somewhere in all of these years that people talk about. Once again, thanks again to the Mix and Mingle people, chair people.
And all the people who are running our goodies around in the carts
Oh,
tomorrow
I hope
morning
I
and
hope
have done
you
it for
enjoyed
2
all of
weeks. Yeah.
that. And if you didn't get one, well, too bad. I don't know. But we hope you enjoyed this time together with the new residents, and you'll take time to meet them and talk to them further. And in the meantime, thank you to the Mix and Mingle Committee to put this on once again in the place of the big surprise that we used to have all of the time.
Right, right.
And this is just a modified version, but we thank you very much.
And we'll hopefully get back to the hors d'oeuvre gatherings, and that's how it was used to be done. I mean, hors d'oeuvres, they were wonderful hors d'oeuvres.
Oh, they all.
Well, Ashley knows. She used to help us with our dinners that we had. So Mix and Mingle is a special committee, and that's the only thing we do is welcome new residents.
And that's what we've done today. So greet all of these new residents, and there may be more as well. Thank you very much for watching today. Good afternoon.